It's the most powerful show on television. High drama with intense energy. A show dedicated to a few brave souls who risk their lives for the sake of their craft. Its in-depth reporting goes to the core and unlocks the mysteries behind today's raciest sport. Motorsports. Catch it when you can.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Post Tech. We come off of a very exciting race at the Nashville Superspeedway in the Camping World Truck Series, the Dryden 200. We also just got out of Circuit of the Americas and the Nashville Fairground race in the NASCAR Cup Series. So those will be the two events we will be going over today in full. But first, let's start off with the whole drama between Todd Gilliland and two other drivers. You recall throughout the course of the Nashville Superspeedway Truck Series race, Gilliland made contact with Brett Moffitt, sending him up into the wall entering Turn 1, and he also brought out the final caution in Turn 3 by spinning Chandler Smith. So after the race, Gilliland and Moffitt had a bit of a confrontation, but because it happened so early from the end of the race, NASCAR could kind of anticipate that there was going to be an incident between those two. So they had officials there ready to separate any kind of conflict before it really even started to happen. And once that happened, Chandler Smith didn't even make it to the party yet. But after the race, Todd Gilliland was called to the Big Red Truck, the NASCAR hauler. There was a discussion in there. Jim France was not in the hauler as he was out in Nashville Fairgrounds race, so he was getting ready for practice, which was happening at the time of the Camping World Truck Series race, so I'm not personally sure of who was actually scolding Todd Gilliland in that truck, but it wasn't Jim France. But no penalties came out of it. NASCAR's kind of set a bit of a precedent through that as well, that no penalties or suspension has come out of that incident. So I would expect that maybe this could lead to some more conflict in the future. Well, this is an entertainment sport, though, so I'm sure it's kind of wanted at this point. Also, Kyle Busch was actually somewhat coaching Ty Gibbs through that race at the Nashville Superspeedway. You could tell there was a lot of extra speed out of the KBM trucks that night. 3 of their 4 trucks were running out front throughout most of the night. They finished 3rd, 4th, and 5th with Gibbs, Nemechek, and Hemrick. Unfortunately for them, Chandler Smith was turned around by Todd Gilliland, so he did not get a very good finish in the 46 truck. But it's really a rebounding night for KBM, and it really showed who I believe is going to be strong this season, because ThorSport showed up to the party at the race having Ben Rhodes, Grant Enfinger, and Matt Crafton running all the way up front. And KBM finally showed up as a really good team. One team that really needs to put their pieces together and run up front is GMS. They really haven't been too big of a front runner this season, and neither has LGR Crosley. They need to figure out what they need to do to get those Fords up front, because so far it's been a GM-dominated season with Toyota just right behind, and Ford isn't even playing the same game at this point. Also, just a bit of a note about our organization. We've won the last 3 races. Is it fair to say that we're paying our drivers maybe extra to beat Kyle Busch's trucks after Auto Club? Maybe. I'll leave that up to speculation. But the number 41 team, Dawson Cram, leading the points, coming into Nashville. Dawson Cram gets up into the marbles. They don't make the race on time. But they currently set 5th in points. Not that far out of the lead. In fact, they are less than about 40 points out of the point lead right now. So if they can get a good race by making Dover and run up front once again with that GMS equipment they've been buying, you might expect another point lead run. And they have some potential funding coming from Marcus Lemonis through one of his 4 Camping World family products. Speaking of Camping World family, they are considering sponsoring Henderson Motorsports for a 2nd truck. So Parker Kligerman has been doing fantastic so far, the number 75 truck for that team, their flagship truck. I mentioned in the last race that they initially planned on just running Kligerman at the speedway races and allowing Sam Mayer to run that truck at the short tracks and the road courses. But the way it's looking, Parker Kligerman may have the potential of making the playoffs this year don't take him out of that truck. So right now, they're thinking about running a second truck, 57 or something along the lines of that, some other number that they haven't announced yet, for Sam Mayer on those short tracks and road courses. And funding would probably come from GM, since they're really big on this kid getting his development, and I think you know why. Shown a lot of success through ARCA so far. And Camping World is all in on the sponsorship program, so expect one of Marcus Lemonis' companies to be on the second Henderson Motorsports truck once it debuts, which it might debut this weekend at Dover, because Sam Mayer is legally allowed to run that race. So I would expect that truck to run at that facility. Also, Ben Rhodes, his contract situation is still a little bit up in the air, even though he got the runner-up finish at Nashville and almost won that race. Had that late race caution not come out with Todd Gilliland, which I thank him for starting that yellow, Ben Rhodes almost certainly would have won that race, unless, well, that actually would have opened up the door for Hemrick. So that would have kind of turned to an all-out battle, because Landon Castle was starting to lose the grip on the racetrack after running out front and trying to hold off the field for so long. It looked like his race was going to fall apart there at the end, but fortunately he got a good restart and held off the 99 for one lap. But Duke and Ronda probably looking to look the other direction if Ben Rhodes returns to the same form that he was through the first three races, not really running up front, and he even failed to make Daytona. But I will say this, that if he continues this momentum of running in second place and can do that throughout the rest of the season, he might just have a long-term shot at that number 99 truck. And last year, we had a big wreck at Talladega that happened under caution. This was in a Cup Series race. I believe it was the spring race, if I'm remembering correctly. Big crash right after the caution comes out. No penalties came out of that incident. So that's what set the precedent for Stephen Parsons' crash at the Nashville Superspeedway, which saw him go upside down and the number 42 truck of Carson Hocevar. The way NASCAR sees it is that they were racing so compact on the racetrack that a crash like that after the caution came out was relatively unavoidable. Now, it's different when it's something like when Martin Truex Jr. wrecked into two of his Gibbs teammates at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in the spring 2019 event, because that started as a single-car accident. Truex was trying to get back one lap around. He was trying to get the wave around, but here he comes, and he's going full speed, and he just rams one of his teammates who's trying to, I believe, get on the pit road, if I remember correctly. But either way, it was a very strange situation where Truex is going full throttle trying to get up to the tail end of the lap, back around to the tail end of the lead lap. And so he made contact with some of the front runners, and that actually led to a one-race suspension. So that was a very ugly situation right there, because it was ruled as a blatant disregard of safety, in the words of NASCAR. But that actually led to something kind of good. It led to Christopher Bell's Cup Series debut at Auto Club Speedway the next week. And then Truex went on to win 6 races that year, so it's not like it really affected him. And on to track news, news related to just the racetracks alone. SMI, there's been a lot of rumors about Kentucky Speedway. They're not looking to reconfigure Kentucky to bring it back onto the Cup Series schedule. Currently, the issue is sponsorship. Kentucky Speedway lost that whole Quaker State deal last year, which is why they're not on the schedule for this season, because they really don't have any funding, and I'm sure that Bruton Smith doesn't want to fund it out of pocket like he had to back when he first built Charlotte, and Humpy Wheeler had to come up with the crazy stunts just to get people to pay for a ticket. But currently, Toyota is looking into buying naming rights for the Speedway. So you remember Lowe's Motor Speedway, which is now Charlotte, was Charlotte before then. Excuse me. That was a sponsorship program. It wasn't all of a sudden just Lowe's Motor Speedway out of the goodness of their heart. It was a sponsorship deal that got Lowe's name out there. So Toyota is looking to do that with Kentucky Speedway. I would guess it would become Toyota Speedway, which would be something rather interesting. They're not looking to reconfigure it, like I said, because in 2020, there was 19 lead changes between 11 different competitors. That's pretty competitive, I have to say. Pit strategy did become a factor very late in the race, which saw Kyle Busch take the victory by 1.29 seconds above John Hunter Nemechek, which is ultimately the race that Kyle Busch was convinced to hire John Hunter Nemechek from to run his number 4 truck in the Camping World Truck Series. So kind of the future of NASCAR, I guess you could say, was born from that race in Kentucky. So even if the Speedway never returns to the Cup Series schedule, that will have a lasting impact on the sport, just the final event, if that really is the final event and Toyota doesn't pick up some sort of sponsorship. Beard Motorsports and their assets have been purchased by their former driver Brendan Gaughan after Mark Beard Sr.'s passing on February 1st. Plans are to run Noah Gragson in exactly 6 races so that he can maximize his NASCAR Cup Series experience while retaining Sunoco Rookie of the Year status for 2022. Now, this is a very interesting situation because, as we know, Gragson has been referred to as the villain of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, gets in trouble nonstop. But Brendan Gaughan believes in his raw talent as a driver, which you have to admit, he's shown a lot of speed. Definitely a lot of speed. I personally don't like his personality whatsoever, but I will say this, that if I was Dale Earnhardt Jr., I'd be very conflicted about him running my Xfinity car, because he can drive the wheels off that thing, but I wouldn't want him. I would not want him for the liability. But Brendan Gaughan believes in this kid, thinks that they can do something good. I would say this is probably Noah's best opportunity to get into Cup if he works with Brendan Gaughan, because these two know each other, both from Las Vegas. I believe Noah Gregson's grandfather was actually the mayor of Las Vegas, Nevada, if I'm not mistaken. We'll roll a graphic on screen if I'm incorrect on that. But South Point Casino would probably be the sponsor on Noah Gregson's car. Not so sure if Johnny Morris wants to continue that deal because of all the stuff going on with Gragson as a driver. I'm probably mispronouncing his name, aren't I? Isn't it Gragson? It's spelled G-R-A-G, not G-R-E-G. G-R-E-G is Greg, like Greg Biffle. G-R-A-G is Greg. I think it's Gragson, but I can't force my mind to say that. But anyway, it would be a Chevrolet program. And Bass Pro Shops and Johnny Morris are actually heavily looking into funding Austin Dillon as time goes on, because he's been running very well in that number 3 car, and with that current rumor of him switching the number 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing, you got to keep your eyes on that. But there's like 3 layered rumors going on with that situation right now. There's the whole Noah Gragson situation. Where does Johnny Morris go? Where does Austin Dillon go? Does Gene Haas and Tony Stewart split? It's too early to tell right now, but all that stuff is factors at the moment. 2311 currently sets 25th in points with Bubba Wallace, which is actually a lot better than where Bubba was running last season with Richard Petty Motorsports. However, the team is actually looking at running an R&D car to see if they can get some extra input from some outside drivers just to make their equipment a little bit better. Because even knowing they're outperforming the way Bubba was running last season, they were expecting to have race-winning speed coming into the year, which they haven't really achieved that so far. The team is actually looking at John Hunter Nemechek or Daniel Hemrick being their second driver. And I would imagine they would probably go with number 45 or something like that. Now, I'm not the best at sticking ball sports, but I'm pretty sure that was Michael Jordan's number in baseball. So that would be a logical secondary number for 2311. I wonder if they'll change the team name to add more numbers. But Nemechek or Hemrick could possibly run that second car to help with their primaries development. Also, Josh Bilicki, the Daytona 500 winner, will be running the number 71 semi-Hendrick prepared TBR Chevrolet, believe it or not, at the Nashville Fairgrounds with sponsorship money coming from Filter Time, which is Blake Cook and Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s company. They're hoping to kind of help TBR along. We'll get into this story as we get into the race recaps in a little while from now, but hopefully it should help Josh Bilicki and that organization out just a little bit more. There's also currently a rumor that for next season, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. may be out at JTG, and they may possibly move Josh Bilicki into that car, because they've been having really good success so far this year with their number 37 of Eric Jones, but not so much with the 47. So, Geschecter, Doherty, they might be considering to go another direction with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. There is currently a rumor that Martin Truex Jr. may be replaced at the end of the year, because he is currently in a contract season, and he really has not been running very good so far this year. He resides 28th in points as we speak, and after only scoring 1 win last season at Dover International Speedway, he might be on his way out. But fortunately for him, Dover is this weekend's race. And being his best track, he might just get back into victory lane this weekend. But if he doesn't, and his 28th place in points continues, you might need to expect somebody like even Daniel Hemrick to get that car next season. Really depends on how the Toyota development system works for this year, if anybody gets that number 19 car after Martin. But it is kind of a big incentive for Joe Gibbs to maybe find a super speedway ringer for that car anyway, because Martin Truex Jr. has not made a single one of the last 3 Daytona 500s. I'm sure not making the biggest race of the year is going to start swaying Joe Gibbs' decisions just a little bit. Before I get into the Cup Series races, take a look at this pit stop that I performed in a wheel-and modified Hoosier tire test up in Thunder Road in Vermont. Lost the brakes going into turn 1, ramped the banking, went up into the air, hit an embankment, flipped, wrecked my way into where we could get the car pitted, totaled a race car, destroyed a war wagon, almost hurt our crew, but after 4 minutes on pit road, we were back out and testing those tires. Definitely not the way you want to pit a car, but I guess you could say it worked. Now, after just a quick commercial break, we'll get on to the race recaps from Circuit of the Americas and the Nashville Fairgrounds. See you then. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series. By Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval. And by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Welcome back. And before we get on to the EchoPark Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, let's give you the race analysis. Stage 1 ends on lap number 8, Stage 2 ends on lap 16, and we have a 26-lap event, so the stages are almost split up into perfect thirds. The track being just a little bit over 3 miles means that an 8-lap stage still takes quite a while, so don't worry about the stage lengths. And your pole sitter, Jack Hawksworth, the road course ringer in the number 5 car for Levine Family Racing. And so now let's christen this race with our intros. Entering today's race at Circuit of the Americas, we currently have Kevin Harvick setting atop the point standings by 5 markers above Justin Allgaier. Then 25 points back is Brad Keselowski in 3rd spot, 29 back is Hamlin, 30 back is Chase Briscoe, 31 back is Clint Bowyer, 33 back is Michael McDowell, 35 is Chase Elliott, and then tied for 38 points back in 9th and 10th is Jan Magnussen and Kurt Busch. Austin Cindric tested the NASCAR Spec Next Gen car at the Circuit of the Americas just before the Cup Series race. This is actually the first time that this car has been tested on a dry road course. So quite a bit of information was gathered from this test, mainly on the independent rear suspension and the way that that affects road course racing and the way that the car handles. Also not to mention with the different form of the tire and wheel combination, it's all about chassis dynamics at the road courses, and they're trying to get that figured out. And from what I've heard from Cindric, it was a very comfortable experience. The car actually felt like it was more of a road course car in comparison to NASCAR's current Cup Series formula when they run on the road courses. Because essentially running a Cup car on a road course is trying to make a square fit a circular hole. It just doesn't really work out. But that's why the races are so exciting. So in a way, the fact that Cindric says that this car is a little bit better on road courses might be a bit concerning, because that takes out some of the uncertainty of Cup Series cars running on road courses. But we will certainly see what this car has to offer next season. It's important to note that while Jack Hawksworth did win the pole, Scott McLaughlin qualified in 6th, 100% making the race and having a good shot at the pole speed in qualifying. So a great run already for the driver of the O2 car. The winner of the most recent race, however, at Texas Motor Speedway, Kyle Busch, qualified in 24th spot. Not a very good run in qualifying for the defending champion. The first ever Cup Series green flag at Circuit of the Americas produced a very interesting start as the field fanned out down into the heavy braking zone of Turn 1. You see Brad Keselowski there all the way on the inside going 4 wide. Some contact getting made right there between the 22 and 5 cars, but Justin Allgaier, the winner at the Charlotte Roval last season, got the advantage, but quickly accidents started to happen. Bowen makes contact with Cole Custer, sending him up into Brad Keselowski. Farther back in the field, starting to fan out to avoid this accident, AJ Allmendinger gets forced out wide and completely misses the corner. 26 car involved, 53 involved, and 50. Quite a few cars with damage, as there you see the 37 car of Eric Jones getting sent around. And farther back is the 16 car of AJ Allmendinger getting shoved out into the runoff. You see AJ gets tapped by the 2 car of Matt DiBenedetto, sent straight off course, spins the car out, but at least doesn't make any contact with the walls. And Kyle Busch could not make his way through the incident without some crash damage. Eric Jones spinning around up in front of the field. Busch makes contact with the 89 car of Landon Castle, getting turned around in this incident. Castle's out of the race with this damage, and there you see Austin Dillon getting turned around. A very wild start at Circuit of the Americas. Ross Chastain raced his way into 4th over the course of the first lap, back to the caution flag, but entering turn 1 under the yellow, Joey Logano gives him a shot entering turn number 1 and actually sends that 55 car around. But because it was under caution, Chastain was allowed to keep the 4th position. On lap number 2, Justin Allgaier led the field down pit road for the first time at Circuit of the Americas. At the end of Kyle Busch's pit stop during lap number 2, he's coming out of his pit stall, and look at who's right there. It's Clint Bowyer. They make contact. Coming off pit road, Kyle Busch once again gets turned around. So this was a quick refueling of their rivalry from Auto Club Speedway. And believe me, the driver of the 18 car was not happy on the radio. On the restart, to start lap number 4, Scott McLaughlin makes a very aggressive 3-wide move down on the inside of his teammate Joey Logano and the pole sitter Jack Hawksworth, going from 5th place to 3rd on the exit of turn number 1, already showing that he's gotten used to the big heavy stock cars. But then again, these cars are very similar to the supercars he got used to driving down under. Kyle Busch's older brother Kurt Busch also got into a reignited rivalry at Circuit of the Americas, runs wide through the S's, and gets clipped by the 33 car of Jan Magnussen, sent off course and hard into the outside retaining wall. But this did not lead to a caution because Kurt Busch got his car refired and continued going. As you recall, these two got into each other at the Daytona August race back in 2020. Kurt Busch made contact with Jan Magnussen, sending Magnussen out of the playoffs, and I'm sure that at this point that has come back to bite him. At the end of lap 4, take a look at the two drivers racing each other. Kyle Busch and Clint Bowyer, a little bit of a bump right there between those two, as Bowyer has some front-end damage from a checkup. But Kyle Busch was getting extremely aggressive racing that number 14 car of Clint Bowyer, but fortunately it did not escalate to anything beyond just a few bumps, as Kyle Busch easily got around that number 14 car and never looked back throughout the rest of the race. However, these hard feelings did continue into the Nashville Fairgrounds. We'll get on to that later on in today's episode. On lap 4, we had a bit of pit strategy between some of the cars that were damaged. Kurt Busch coming onto pit road, as well as Ryan Blaney, Cole Custer, and the number 55 car of Ross Chastain. On lap number 5, the driver of the number 43 car, Myatt Snyder, reports on the radio that he is low on power. We're not quite sure what the issue was on the 43 car, but you can tell down the back stretch that he was quickly losing time on his competition. Down the long back straightaway, some contact gets made between the 96, which checks up Drew Herring, and Chris Buescher makes heavy contact with the back bumper of the number 96 of Drew Herring, giving that 17 car big front-end damage. You know, Clint Bowyer did do a pretty good job at blocking Kyle Busch for the next 2 laps, but at the start of lap number 6, Kyle Busch dives in on the outside of the 14 car entering turn number 1 to take the spot away. By lap 7, Myatt Snyder has dropped all the way down to 36th place and decides to finally bring that 43 car onto pit road to see if they can get the problem fixed. By the final lap of the stage, Justin Allgaier had extended his lead over the second-place runner Kevin Harvick out to about half a second, coming out of the final turn and onto the front straightaway. And Allgaier, picking up on where he left off at the Charlotte Roval, went on to win stage number 1 at Circuit of the Americas, the first ever Cup Series stage at this facility. Right at the end of the stage on lap number 9, Justin Allgaier brought pretty much every single lead lap car onto pit road. But because at this racetrack you can pit without dropping 1 lap down, 2 damaged cars actually stayed out because they had just pitted within the last 2 laps. Chris Buescher stayed out and assumed the race lead with heavy front-end damage that he got from that checkup earlier, and the number 43 car of Myatt Snyder had pitted to get that issue with their engine fixed, which they did manage to get that fixed, so he's back under full power, and he will restart in second spot. The first car off pit road was Allgaier getting out in front of Harvick, and then Scott McLaughlin still having a great race in that 02 car. On the restart, the damaged number 17 car of Chris Buescher was no match for the 43 of Myatt Snyder, as Snyder easily cuts down to the inside and takes the race lead, as there you see Kevin Harvick also going 3 wide down on the bottom to move his way up into third spot. Harvick also quickly got around the 17 car of Chris Buescher to be right on the back bumper of the 43 car of Myatt Snyder, challenging him for the top spot through the S's. By lap number 12, Kevin Harvick on slightly fresher tires gives the 43 car just a bit of a bump through the S's, shoots onto the outside, and then passes that number 43 car of Myatt Snyder within the next 2 turns to take up the race lead at Circuit of the Americas. Then down the backstretch on the same lap, Myatt Snyder slows up just a little bit more than Logano anticipated. 22 car makes heavy contact with the 43 car's rear bumper, and a lot of front-end damage on Joey Logano's number 22 car. At the conclusion of that lap, Myatt Snyder and Joey Logano both came down pit road to assess their damage, and there you see Logano giving Snyder a bump coming down pit road, which certainly didn't really help Logano's situation, as he already has bad front-end damage. He kind of just gave himself worse damage doing that. But because the second and third place runners had to come down pit road, that extended Kevin Harvick's gap out to second, which has now been taken by Justin Allgaier, out to 2.5 seconds. By lap number 14, it's important to note that the number 33 car of Jan Magnussen, who was thought to be the odds-on favorite to at least have a top 5, was unfortunately knocked out of the race due to overheating issues on the 33. Circuit of the Americas was actually Bubba Wallace's currently best showing in the number 23 cars. There you see through the S's on lap number 13. He goes 3 wide to get around the 17 car of Chris Buescher and the 99 of Ryan Prix. Almost a little bit of contact right there between himself and Buescher, but he clears them on the exit of the corner. Just 1 lap later, Wallace goes 3 wide for a second time after Prix gets into the number 61 car of Christopher Bell. And Wallace is able to muscle his way around the number 99 and 61 cars, which moves Wallace up into the 12th spot. You see the 61 cars to check up right there. Wallace now has the preferred inside line, almost makes contact with the 99 car of Ryan Prix, and then finally manages to edge ahead of that number 99 car and take the spot. At the end of lap number 14, Chris Buescher came down pit road once again for possibly some more damage repair, and also to try and go off strategy once again like he did through stage number 1. Matt Benedetto also got quite a bit of damage on lap number 15 as he overshoots the entry into the corner and makes contact with the number 99 car of Ryan Prix, getting significant front-end damage on the tube. It was not a very good day for the Penske team. At the end of lap number 16, Kevin Harvick held an almost 4-second gap above the number 42 car of Justin Allgaier, that being your stage 1 winner. Coming onto the front straightaway, Harvick wins stage number 2. An easy stage number 2 victory, with almost no challenges from behind over the course of the 8-lap run. There was a strategy split on lap number 17 to start the final stage, with Allgaier coming down pit road above Hamlin, McLaughlin, Elliott, and Bowman, but Kevin Harvick decided to stay out and hold the race lead above Martin Truex Jr. and Quinn Half, so this was a massive shakeup of the front runners. There was also 2 additional cars that decided to stay out, those being Eric Jones and Tyler Reddick, but they actually decided to come down pit road with the pace car, as well as Quinn Half, so I'm not quite sure what the strategy was there, because they come down pit road with the pace car. They're already half a lap behind the leaders when they drop the green flag. It did not work out in their favor. On the restart for the final stage at Circuit of the Americas, Denny Hamlin restarted in 4th place. Coming down into turn number 1, he dives it into the corner, going from 4th all the way up to the top spot, getting around Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick on the exit of the first turn. Entering turn number 2, there you see he sends it into the corner and clears the 19 and 4 cars. Harvick quickly dropping back with that strategy disadvantage. through the S as Harvick is lacking the necessary grip that he needs. He goes just a little bit wide. Here comes the 42 car on fresh tires to the outside and quickly clears Harvick and Martin Truex Jr. in a 3-wide pass to take up second spot. On lap number 19, just after Denny Hamlin took the race lead, Austin Dillon makes contact with the number 88 car of Brad Keselowski. This turns Dillon up into the outside wall with a pretty hard lick for the number 3 car. Then the cars checking up start to be involved in the accident with the 12 car being sent around by the 55 and the 55 getting turned by the 41 of Cole Custer. Down the backstretch and into the hard braking zone, the 02 car of Scott McLaughlin makes contact with the 4 car of Kevin Harvick, trying to send him off the bottom, and as you saw, Kyle Busch made pretty significant contact with the 5 car of Jack Hawksworth, trying to cut his way through the field as he is finally starting to make his way up into the top 10. There you see McLaughlin in a very intense battle with the 4 car of Harvick, showing that he is not intimidated by one of our sport's greatest, giving him a shot on the exit of the corner, still right up on the back bumper. The 4 turns up to the outside into the carousel and takes up the 3rd spot off the 4 car. Also, there was a bit of a dicey moment right here where Ryan Preece tries to drop out of line because he's in a much slower car, trying to let some of the leaders by. Kyle Busch runs wide and makes contact with the 99, almost sending Busch's car around. But Denny Hamlin led the field back to the caution flag above Justin Allgaier, Scott McLaughlin, Chase Elliott, and Kevin Harvick. On lap number 20, Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers gave in. They realized that the call to stay out was the wrong decision, so they brought the 4 car of Kevin Harvick down pit road for a 4-tire stop with less than 5 laps to go. So this really did kill their race and any shot of winning it, but still, this was just a way to at least be on the aggressive side at the end of the race, give Harvick the 4 fresh tires he needs to try and cut his way through the field, because all he was going to do on those old tires is just drop back anyways. So that caution set the field up with a 5-lap-to-go restart at Circuit of the Americas. And you can see the number 18 car of Kyle Busch has raced his way all the way up into 6th place, and the 47 car of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. runs in 7th. A very good run for the number 47, as entering turn number 1, the 02 car of Scott McLaughlin went for 2nd spot on the 42 car of Justin Allgaier. Through the first few turns, it looked like McLaughlin was going to take the spot off the 42 car, but Allgaier pressured him and managed to clear him just a few turns later. At the end of the backstretch, the 9 car of Chase Elliott gives the 02 of Scott McLaughlin just a shot, entering the corner, trying to move that 02 car off the inside line, and Elliott actually managed to take 3rd spot away from the 02 car. Elliott is a road course winner. In fact, he scored his first career Cup Series win at Watkins Glen International back in 2018. In that same move, the number 48 car of Alex Bowman managed to take up the 4th spot, following suit with the 9 car's move on the 02 of Scott McLaughlin. On lap number 23, the damaged number 21 car of Austin Cindric, who had actually raced his way all the way up to 13th spot, unfortunately had to bring that 21 car onto pit road. But the story of the number 21 car is not over, as he makes contact with the 19 car of Martin Truex Jr., as Truex is trying to come down pit road. On lap 24, McLaughlin makes some contact with the 48 car of Alex Bowman, forcing Bowman wide and quickly moving back into the 4th spot. Also at the end of lap 24, many cars had to come down pit road over concerns of running out of gas, including Stenhouse, Wallace, Boyer, Almirola, and a few others who unfortunately could not make it to the end of the race with their current load of fuel. And if you're wondering, well, why couldn't they? 2 laps around this racetrack is about 6.5 miles. So if you're off by 1 lap, there's no way you're going to make it back by coasting. This is not quite like running out of gas at, say, Richmond. McLaughlin pulls a similar move on Chase Elliott, cuts down to the inside, although this time without contact, and outbrakes Chase Elliott down the back stretch to make his way back up into 3rd spot. We had a 2-car battle there at the end of the race between Denny Hamlin and Justin Allgaier. Now, Allgaier had the much better race car. There you see he tries to look down to the inside of Hamlin on the last lap. They make just a little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact, but Hamlin, using his years of experience in NASCAR Cup Series competition, was able to hold him off. Denny Hamlin onto the front straightaway with the number 42 car of Justin Allgaier, just about 2 car lengths behind, wins the inaugural EchoPark Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas. Had Allgaier had just one more lap left, I believe that 42 car would have ended up in victory lane. But Hamlin edges out Justin Allgaier for the race win at Circuit of the Americas, with Scott McLaughlin bringing home a third-place run, Chase Elliott in fourth, and Alex Bowman in fifth. And somehow, Kyle Busch managed to pull off a sixth-place finish, fighting through complete adversity throughout the running of today's event. Denny Hamlin's win at the Circuit of the Americas is his 39th in his career, which means that Hamlin has now tied Matt Kenseth in the win column. After the EchoPark Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, Justin Allgaier took the point lead off of Kevin Harvick after Harvick and Childers' poor pit strategy left them finishing outside the top 20. So Allgaier takes up the point lead, and he holds it by 19 points above Denny Hamlin, who picks up 2 spots to second. Harvick falls down 2 down to third. Brad Keselowski falls down 1 spot in points to fourth. Chase Elliott moves up 3 to fifth. Clint Boyer stays in 6th place. Matt DiBenedetto moves up 7 spots in points to 7th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. moves up 3 to 8th. Chase Briscoe drops down 4 to move to 9th. And Michael McDowell drops down 3 spots in points to 10th. And in your playoff standings, Justin Allgaier currently holds a automatic playoff berth by being the point leader in the regular season standings. He has yet to win a race, but he is currently locked in if he can stay atop the standings. Hamlin, Briscoe, Kyle Busch, Jan Magnussen, and Josh Bilicki are all locked in through wins, so they do not need to worry about winning any more races or running really up front. They just have to worry about staying above top 30 in the point standings. From there, we have Harvick, 40 points above, Keselowski 31, Elliott 29, Boyer 16, DiBenedetto 11, Stenhouse 9, McDowell 6, Hal 4, Austin Dillon 2 points. Same thing with Logano, 2 points above, and then Alex Bowman is 2 points out, Kurt Busch is 7 points out, Eric Jones is 8 points out, and Chris Buescher is 11 points out of making it. And now, after just a quick commercial break, we'll get into the Federated Auto Parts 400 from the Nashville Fairgrounds. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series, by Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval, and by Anthony's Online Simulation League. And before we get on to the Federated Auto Parts 400 from the Nashville Fairgrounds, I got to give you the race analysis. Stage 1 ended on lap number 40, and Stage 2 ended on lap 80. It was a 160-lap race around the very tight short track, and the pole spot was won by Daniel Suarez. And so, let's give this race an intro as well. NASCAR's Spec Next Gen test car was tested at the Nashville Fairgrounds by the defending Federated Auto Parts 400 race winner, Joey Logano. This is one of the first short track tests of this race car this year. Feedback was very positive so far, like we've discussed several times over the course of this season. Until we get multi-car testing out, we really don't know what this car is exactly going to produce, but according to Logano, the handling of the car was rather comfortable. Obviously, NASCAR will be going through several different types of aero packages to determine what will be the best for this race car. Right now, they're working with an intermediate package, believe it or not. Not like an intermediate racetrack package, but an in-between of the two packages that we have now. It's not like the very low downforce package we run on short tracks or the very high downforce package we run on most speedways. This is right around a 4-inch spoiler, right in between those two margins, and no restrictions on the engine so far. So no spacers like you would see at a speedway race. So it should make for rather interesting racing if we use this package next season, because the downforce is there to hold your car down, but from what I can tell, they're trying to go back to kind of what we had with the Gen 4 back around 2001. Just like what we ran back around 2000 and 2002 with a relatively medium downforce package. That's what they're trying to achieve with this next-gen car at the moment. But obviously, the stories that this car generates will evolve throughout the course of this season's tests. Now, Daniel Suarez qualified on the pole here at Nashville. We also have Chase Elliott starting on the outside, Clint Boyer starting inside row 2, Logano outside row 2 as well. And Ross Chastain qualifies in 5th place. That's one of his best qualifying runs this season. Don't forget about Eric Jones in the number 37, qualifying well within the top 10. And the 71 car of Josh Bilicki. There you see the filter time number 71, the first time that they have debuted this sponsorship package. I should mention also they did not make the race at Circuit of the Americas. Bilicki unfortunately went off course during his qualifying run in Turn 1. It botched more or less the entire lap, and they did not make the race there. However, they did make Nashville Fairgrounds, and they qualified in 11th spot in a mostly Hendrick-prepared number 71. So if they can keep these runs going together, Bilicki might have a pretty good future in the Cup Series. Also coming to the green, the driver of the number 10 car, Eric Almirola, noticed that he had a tire coming down and had to pit while the field was taking the start due to a tire puncture. On the start of the race, the 00 car of Daniel Suarez did not get the jump, but this racetrack does heavily favor the inside line, and he was able to clear the number 9 car of Chase Elliott by the end of lap number 1, with also Clint Boyer taking up the 2nd spot. And just for an idea of how crucial an inside line starting position is at this racetrack, by lap number 4, Josh Bilicki had raced his way around Joey Logano, the defending race winner at this racetrack, to make his way up into 7th spot in that number 71 car. We had 2 rather interesting starters in the race at the Nashville Fairgrounds, including the number 87 car of Timothy Peters showing up, as Nemco intends on running all the short track races with their Camping World Truck Series driver. We also had David Reagan coming out of semi-retirement in NASCAR's Cup Series to run the Fairgrounds race as well. However, Reagan found himself in trouble very quickly, as on lap number 17, racing for 20th place with the 17 car of Chris Buescher, he turns Buescher down to the 19 car of Martin Truex Jr. That forces the 42 car of Allgaier hard into the inside wall, up into the 19 car of Truex. Heavy damage on the 42 car. 42 also gets hit by the 4 of Harvick and the 48 car of Alex Bowman. Harvick with a lot of damage out of this, as well as the 42. Your point leader coming into this race already with big-time trouble on lap number 17. And this crash also knocked the number 48 car of Alex Bowman out of the race with radiator trouble. Under the first cycle of green flag pit stops, Clint Boyer took the lead off of Daniel Suarez with a very fast stop, with Suarez dropping several spots on pit road. On lap number 25 after the restart, the number 20 car of Brandon Jones tries to punt the 9 car of Chase Elliott out of the way, but couldn't quite do it as those two battle very intensely for the 18th spot. By lap number 35, Kyle Busch was freight trained so badly up on the outside line that he dropped all the way down to 33rd spot. I'm sure it isn't helping him the fact that Clint Boyer is out front dominating the race. By lap number 40, Clint Boyer had extended his race lead all the way out to 0.7 of a second, and coming off of turn number 4, Boyer wins stage number 1 at the Nashville Fairgrounds in rather dominating fashion after getting the lead off of pit road. On lap number 41, we had a couple cars duck onto pit road, those being Tyler Reddick in the 8, then onto pit road. Farther back, we have the 21, 36, and 19 cars also hitting the pits, but most of your front runners elect to stay out. Quinn Half actually waited 2 additional laps to come onto pit road as he pits from 8th spot on the 3rd lap under caution. And on the restart for stage number 2, Boyer does not get through the gears very well and quickly lets the 55 car of Ross Chastain down to his inside. And as we talked about before, this racetrack heavily favors the bottom lane, much like the way Bristol was before it was redone back in the middle of 2007. And Ross Chastain takes the lead very easily off of the 14 car of Clint Boyer on lap number 46. Also, the 2 car of Matt DiBenedetto followed suit to move his way up into 2nd. By lap number 53, the fastest car on the racetrack is the 37 of Eric Jones. He cuts down to the inside of the 00 car of Daniel Suarez down in turn number 1 and takes up 3rd spot entering turn 3. Just 1 lap later, Eric Jones gets right up to the back bumper of Matt DiBenedetto on the backstretch, gives him a shot entering turn number 3, and rides the back bumper of that 2 car all the way through 3 and 4. On the exit of turn 4, he cuts right down to the inside of him, so you can really tell that 37 car has to drive off, dives down into turn 1, and takes up the 2nd spot in the 37 car for JTG Doherty Racing. And by lap number 56, the 14 car of Clint Boyer was freight trained up on the outside line and dropped all the way down to 15th place. Also, another driver with a great handling race car is the defending race winner at this racetrack, Joey Logano. As in a span of about 10 laps, he went from 8th place all the way up to 4th, getting around the 00 car of Daniel Suarez. By lap 67, Ross Chastain was trying so hard to stay out front that he managed to turn into a 3-car battle for the top spot because Kurt Busch managed to catch up to the 37, but Eric Jones gives him just a bit of a shot entering turn number 1 and easily takes the race lead away from Ross Chastain. So Eric Jones out front in the number 37 car. This is absolutely the greatest run so far this season for the JTG Daugherty team. On lap number 69, Quinn Half has a tire going down right up in front of the field. David Reagan makes contact with the 50. The field trying to avoid the 40 car as he's trying to get onto pit road. Makes contact with the 50 up into the outside wall, and then ends up turning around the 95 car of Harrison Burton and also collecting the 43 of Myatt Snyder in this incident, bringing out the caution flag. The final pit stop before the end of stage number 2 saw the 22 car of Joey Logano drop from 4th coming onto pit road down to 7th with a very slow pit stop compared to his competition. Kurt Busch had raced his way all the way up to 2nd spot, and they got him a very fast pit stop to get back out in 2nd. However, he had to come back down pit road for a loose wheel that they got during the pit stop. And unfortunately for Kurt Busch, he dropped all the way from 2nd to 33rd by having to pit for a 2nd time under this cycle. The field went green with just 5 laps to go in stage number 2, with Daniel Suarez getting the jump on the restart above his teammate Ross Chastain. He turns down to the inside of the 55 car to quickly take up 2nd, as there you see Joey Logano getting around his Team Penske teammate to move his way back up into the top 5. And in just 2 laps, Joey Logano managed to get around the 2 and 55 cars in succession to make his way back up into 3rd spot. I'm sure you know the occasional short track big one in NASCAR that sometimes you'll see at Bristol Motor Speedway. Well, guess what? We had one of them to end stage number 2 at Nashville. Keselowski makes contact with Martin Truex Jr., sending him down into Kyle Larson, spinning the 57 car out in front of the field. 88 car gets put up into the outside wall, and now more or less the entire racetrack is blocked. 57 car almost turns the 88 car around for a 2nd time. Watch the 10 car of Almirola. Gets hit passenger side by the 40 car of Quinn Half and turns over. Clint Boyer has the 88 car of Brad Keselowski come to rest on top of the hood of the 14 car. Not too many cars with significant damage from this accident, but plenty of cars with crinkled fenders. Eric Jones raced his way back to the line to win stage number 2 in the 37 car. However, right up in front of him is the pack of cars that were involved in the accident. He tries to miss it and makes heavy contact with the 1 car of Kurt Busch, effectively ending Eric Jones' chances of winning the race. And with such an exceptionally fast race car, this was a very disappointing way to end his stage number 2, his first stage win with JTG Daugherty. Now, this did not drop the number 37 car out of the race. However, it just dropped him out of winning contention. Also, Chris Buescher is trying to be waved around by the field. Eric Jones doesn't quite notice that Buescher is coming full speed up on the outside line, and Buescher makes contact with the 37 car of Eric Jones under caution once again. This seems to be a theme with the JTG cars. If you recall last year at Talladega, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. actually swept both stages, but ended up crashing under caution. Just seems to be their luck. They'll have a great race going and have something very stupid end their chances at a race win. And once again, Jan Magnussen manages to avoid a very large crash. There you see the big one forming up in front of him. Larson up into the wall, turning the 88 car around. Then Boyer makes contact with Brad Keselowski. That puts the 88 car up on the right front fender of the 14 car. But he just comes to a stop and then drives right around this mess. And once again, takes advantage of other drivers' mistakes and passes about 10 cars from this accident. And yes, they Dale Earnhardted Eric Almirola's car. They got the thing back running and back out on the racetrack, although he was about 2 or 3 laps down at that time, but still the 10 car still out on the racetrack after flipping on the front stretch. Believe it or not, the only car that actually dropped out of the race from that crash was the number 50 of Kaz Gralla due to front-end damage. And shockingly, after getting so much damage from those two crashes under yellow, the 37 car of Eric Jones elected to stay out under this caution period and still restarted as the race leader. The 12 car of Ryan Blaney had to pit from 6th place as he ran over debris after the crash and cut down one of his tires. And believe it or not, on the restart, to start the final stage, the 37 car actually got a very good jump, but the 55 car of Ross Chastain did not, allowing Joey Logano to drive down to his inside through 1 and 2 and take up 3rd spot. Just about 3 laps later, the 00 car of Daniel Suarez goes down to the inside of the 37 of Eric Jones and takes the top spot off of the 37 car. And with Daniel Suarez moving his way up into the top spot, that allowed Chase Elliott down on the inside to follow suit and take up 2nd spot, as well as the heavily damaged number 57 car of Kyle Larson, who was involved in that big one. And then down on the inside on lap 87, here comes Chase Elliott going for the race lead, and he takes it on the exit of turn 4. I'm sure that made the fans happy, having Chase Elliott out front at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Chase Elliott and lap traffic is like a moth to a flame, as he gets blocked by the previously flipped number 10 car of Eric Almirola. That allows Kyle Larson, with that heavy rear-end damage, to cut down to his inside, entering turn number 1, and the 57 car takes the top spot down the backstretch. Through pit strategy and aggressive racing, Kyle Busch actually managed to drive his way all the way up to 6th place by lap number 92, one of his classic rebounding races. There you see he gets down to the inside of the 2 car of Matt DiBenedetto, still making contact with the 2, and moves him up off the bottom to make his way up into the top 5. That opens up the door for the number 36 car of David Reagan to move his way into 6th. On lap number 94, Joey Logano gets down to the inside of Eric Jones and takes up 3rd spot. He actually uses Jones as a pick against the 18 car of Kyle Busch, as David Reagan was down on the inside, got around the 18 car of Kyle Busch and the number 37 car of Eric Jones in succession to move his way up into 4th spot in the 3rd Front Row Motorsports entry. But just 2 laps later, David Reagan gets moved off the inside line by Kyle Busch, and then Busch quickly gets down to the inside of the 22 car of Joey Logano, making his way all the way up into 3rd spot. Remember, over the course of the last 50 laps, he went from 33rd now to 3rd. On lap number 98, Austin Cindric is running 3 laps down in the number 21 car in 32nd. But entering turn 1, he makes a 3-wide move on the inside of the 36 and the 22 cars of Reagan and Logano, who are both running for 8th. Makes contact with the 36 car, continues that contact down the backstretch, and was not making friends in his way through the field, as he's trying to get up to the race leader of Kyle Larson, trying to get back to the status of being 2 laps down. And being on fresh tires allows you to make those dicey moves like that and get away with it. On lap 102, the lap car of Timothy Peters is getting very frustrated with the number 19 of Martin Truex Jr., who is the last car in the lead lap. Entering turn number 1, he just sends him into the corner, turning that 19 car around and up into the outside wall, right up in front of our race leaders. Needless to say, Martin Truex Jr. was not happy on the radio after that, but Kyle Larson raced his way back to the caution flag as your race leader. And believe it or not, because Timothy Peters sent Truex around, that actually put Truex 1 lap down. That means that Truex and Peters are now actually racing for track position. On the pit stops following the Martin Truex Jr. incident, Kyle Busch got off pit road in 3rd and Clint Boyer got off in 5th. So already, the rivalry is coming back into play after it was reignited at Circuit of the Americas after a second pit road incident with these two, which fortunately did not lead to any sort of confrontation. Things are certainly going to get heated here on the short track at Nashville. And race leader Kyle Larson has some lap traffic restarting right up in front of him on the restart, that being the number 21 of Austin Cindric, who has already shown these lead lap runners how aggressive he will be to get back on the lead lap, even though he's 3 laps down at the moment. And then the car that has already flipped once today, Eric Almirola in the 10, who's just going to be outright slow. Kyle Larson does not get the restart he needs as he gets slowed up by the 21 car of Austin Cindric. That lets Chase Elliott make the move down on the inside, and the 9 car took up the top spot down the backstretch. 18 car of Kyle Busch follows suit to take up second. Also on the restart, Jan Magnussen is extremely frustrated with the 11 car of Denny Hamlin and tries his hardest to spin that number 11 car around, and Hamlin does a very good job at saving it on the exit of turn number 2. Also, don't forget about Josh Bilicki having a very decent 21st place run in the number 71 car. By lap number 111, the number 42 car of Justin Allgaier has already dropped about 13 laps down behind the race leader. But being the point leader entering today's race, he is staying in the race to try and earn as many points as possible in the hopes that someone ahead of him may drop out of the race. But almost every single lap he comes down pit road to stay out of the way of the race leaders. I mentioned earlier that Chase Elliott being in lap traffic is like a moth to a flame. Well, by lap number 125, his gap above the second place runner Kyle Busch was extended out to a little bit over 1 second. But there you see the lap car of Timothy Peters right up in front of the 9 of Chase Elliott. He gets right up to the back bumper of Peters, but just cannot figure out a way around. As you can see, Elliott is being slowed up on the straightaways and is not willing to even chance wrecking his own car to move the 87 car out of the way. There you see the 18 car of Kyle Busch quickly gaining a whole bunch of track position. Elliott still being blocked, but Kyle Busch misses turn number 3, lets the 14 car of Boyer down on his inside. Boyer making up now a lot of time on the 9 car of Elliott, dives it into turn number 1. Tries to get up to the back bumper of the 9 car, and he does so, trying to move Elliott off the bottom, and he does it down the backstretch. Boyer, in 1.5 laps, goes from 3rd to 1st, taking the race lead with now Kyle Busch running in 2nd. That's quite the storyline right there, and Larson moving into 3rd. Chase Elliott was not happy with Timothy Peters as he makes contact with him exiting turn number 2, but then Cindric slams up into him, and lap cars are more or less just ganging up on the 9 car of Elliott. By lap 130, here comes the 18 car of Kyle Busch, forces the issue down to turn number 1 on the 14 car of Clint Boyer, and takes the race lead. An incredible comeback for Kyle Busch through the running of the Federated Auto Parts 400. But believe me, this rivalry between the 18 and 14 is not over. As there you see these two trying to race through lap traffic, and Kyle Busch finally gets around the 14 car of Boyer. Ironically, Boyer gets trapped in line behind his own teammate, and look at Cindric going 3 wide down on the bottom, pressuring the 57 car of Larson, the second place runner. Larson down into turn number 1, makes contact with the 21 car of Cindric, and then gets finished off by the 4 car of Harvick hard into the outside wall. Larson crashes himself out of second place, bringing out the yellow flag. And let's just say that Larson was not happy with the 21 car of Cindric forcing the issue. But in my opinion, I don't personally blame him for doing it. Because there you see the 57 car just checks up on the exit of turn number 4. Cindric sees a hole that he can go in. And remember, he's trying to get around that 18 car of Kyle Busch so he can get one more lap back. But he is, I will say this, really forcing the issue as a car that is 3 laps down. Entering turn number 1, just slides up the racetrack just a little bit, makes some contact with the 57 car of Larson. Larson gets clipped by the 4 of Harvick, also a lap down car, and hard into the wall driver's side. Larson was the only lead lap car involved in this incident, as the 4, 21, and 43 cars were all at least 1 lap down. But that incident allowed Clint Boyer to take up second place above Chase Elliott, who took up third. They were able to get the 57 car of Kyle Larson back out on track, but he dropped down to 27th place 1 lap down. By lap 140, this race has turned into a battle of future Hall of Famers, including 2-time Cup Series champion Kyle Busch and defending champion, and 2019 Series champion Clint Boyer. You could not really have a better rivalry between 2 drivers, and especially for it to all come to a head on a short track. It's the perfect recipe for Saturday night action. While racing for 16th spot with the 40 car of Quinn Half, Ross Chastain has a tire going down and has to duck onto pit road. And Chastain almost causes a crash when he remerges with the field as he slides up into the 95 car of Burton and almost turns the 19 car of Truex around once again, but the field managed to keep it together. now with just 20 laps to go. On lap number 144, Ryan Blaney believes he is being held up by the 20 car of Brandon Jones, makes very heavy contact entering turn 1, tries to send him around on the exit of turn 2. An incredible save by Jones as he then defends the inside line. Blaney's still racing him very hard, trying to force the 20 car onto the apron. Finally, Jones lifts on the exit of turn 4 and allows Blaney by. But that 12 car isn't even on the lead lap. But Brandon Jones actually is, and currently holds the 8th spot. Very surprisingly, by lap number 147, Tyler Reddick in the 8 car actually raced his way up into 4th spot, getting around the 61 of Christopher Bell. So far, the best runs of the season for those two drivers. And Bubba Wallace in the number 23 car running in 6th spot. 2 consecutive good runs for that 2311 team. With 10 laps to go, it's beginning to look like Kyle Busch may just drive away with this one with an almost 1 second gap above the 14 car of Clint Boyer. But Kyle Busch ends up getting stuck behind the lap car of Harrison Burton. And this allows the 14 car of Clint Boyer to very quickly close the gap. And remember that Burton has some history with Kyle Busch. These two were involved in a brake checking incident at Martinsville in the fall race last season. Clint Boyer dives it into turn number 1 with 6 laps to go. And Boyer takes the race lead in a almost 4 wide pass. Entering turn number 3, Burton still forces the 18 car wide. Boyer out front, Chase Elliott takes up second. Accounting for the 2 lap cars, just look at this. This was a pass for the race lead on a short track. Boyer trying to get to the inside of the 95. There's the 42 car of Allgaier just trying to get laps in. Busch tries to make contact with the 95 car of Harrison Burton, but that actually just slows him down a little bit more, as Burton, it looks like he just turns right just a little bit to try and, I guess you could say, rattle Kyle's cage a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, I think Harrison Burton's the one actually getting in Kyle's head. Because so far, Kyle hasn't been able to do anything negative towards Burton. But now with just 5 laps to go, we still have 3 cars under a blanket for the race lead. Clint Boyer held the lead all the way up to the beginning of the final lap, with there you see Kyle Busch trying the outside line. But through lap traffic, Chase Elliott cuts down to the inside of Clint Boyer. Boyer stuck in line behind the 55 car of Chastain, and Elliott takes the race lead in a last lap pass in turns 1 and 2. Boyer dropped all the way down to 3rd spot. Kyle Busch took up 2nd, and ironically enough, neither of the 2 drivers involved in the rivalry end up on top of the mountain. It is Chase Elliott scoring his 6th career Cup Series win in the Federated Auto Parts 400, locking himself into the playoffs. Elliott with his first win since Michigan last season. And finally, running as expected in the Hendrick Motorsports number 9. And after Chase Elliott's shocking final few lap passes on the last 2 Cup Series champions, he has scored his 6th career Cup Series race win and moves up 4 spots in points all the way to the top. Chase Elliott is your point leader by 3 points above Denny Hamlin. Now, Hamlin probably would have the point lead if he wouldn't have DNQ'd for the Daytona 500. But with his DNQ, Elliott holds the lead by 3 markers. Justin Allgaier with his DNF very close to the finish of the race at Nashville. They actually just parked the car because he was so many laps down that with the amount of laps left, they wouldn't have got anything out of running the car for the additional 10 laps. So they parked the thing. He drops down from 1st, but he's only 5 points out of the point lead. Harvick drops down 1 more spot in points, down to 4th. Clint Boyer moves up 1 to 5th. Kyle Busch moves up a full 5 spots to 6th. Brad Keselowski drops down 3 to 7th. Matt DiBenedetto drops down 1 to 8th. Logano moves up 5 to 9th. And Austin Dillon moves up 3 spots in points to 10th. That's a great run going so far for the number 3 team. In your playoff standings, we currently have 6 drivers already locked in with wins, 6 races, 6 different winners. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Ian Magnussen, Josh Bilicki, and Chase Briscoe are all locked in with wins. Then we have Justin Allgaier, the best of the rest, 52 points above the cut line, currently resides 7th in your playoff standings. Then Harvick is 41 points above, Boyer 38, Keselowski 25, DiBenedetto 19, Logano 17, Austin Dillon 16, Chris Buescher 8, Eric Jones 7, Quinn Half and Kurt Busch, the 2 teammates of Chip Ganassi Racing, are actually tied for the cutoff line, with Quinn Half getting the tiebreaker. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is currently 3 points out, Daniel Suarez is 5 points out, and Michael McDowell is 6 points out of making the round of 16. And now, after just another quick commercial break, we'll get on to the Q&A segment of episode number 2 of Post Tech. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series, by Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval, and by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Post Tech. We will be getting into fan sent in questions, the Q&A segment of today's episode. From Colin McCoy: is there any new manufacturers looking at entering the sport? By the way, this is just another disclaimer. If I don't pronounce anybody's name or handle correctly, I'm sorry. Just like what I said in the last part, never been the most educated. But new manufacturers looking at entering the sport, it's kind of hard to be involved in NASCAR and not every single day hear a rumor that Chrysler wants to join. Ever since they left back in the early 80s, ever since they left again in 2012, every single day you hear a rumor about Chrysler. And right now it's just the same, and especially with the rumors of Stuart Evernham Motorsports, it's even bigger. And with the whole next-gen car coming in next year, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Chrysler come back. Honda's been looking at it, but not really anything coming out of that. They're focused on their IndyCar programs. There's actually rumors, by the way, of Toyota wanting to build IndyCar engines for the near future, so we'll have to keep our eyes on that if that will affect the NASCAR Cup Series operations or any of their NASCAR operations. Maybe it's because the Truck Series went to the spec engine by Ilmor. Maybe some of that funding can go to IndyCar because they don't need to worry about Truck Series engines anymore, and they haven't for the last couple seasons. So definitely keep your eyes on any new manufacturers. From the Alex Mill: are there any plans to show Xfinity Series races in the future? There are. They're not too extensive right now. The talks at least aren't. More or less it's looking like if any network has a scheduling conflict like what used to happen with ESPN, we may take over a broadcast of a race or two. But more or less, we'll just be mentioning the Xfinity Series and the on-track activities of that series if they just so happen to affect a Cup or Camping World Truck Series event. From a reporter order of tier: after having at least one truck finish top 5 in the first 3 races, is Germain Racing the team to beat? I feel like they're certainly a team to beat. At the very least, they are round of 8 contenders in the playoffs this season. Ty Dillon, Casey Mears, great race car drivers, and putting them together, I believe, was one of the best decisions that a Camping World Truck Series team has made in recent history, because they're good teammates. They proved that at Daytona, that they know how to work together. And also with the addition of Jordan Anderson's team, it should make that whole operation just the little bit stronger that it needs to be to get to victory lane beyond Casey Mears, because they haven't had Ty Dillon get to victory lane as of yet. I'm sure he's going to get a win at some point this season, but just hasn't happened yet. But certainly watch out for the 31 and 60 trucks over the course of the season. They will be strong. The 3 truck also is going to be very strong in the races that it runs as well. From Ronnie Adema: with the excellence of Dawson Cram in the first 3 races of the season, is a full-time season on the table for the self-owned number 41 truck? So, after failing to make the Nashville Superspeedway, that team really is not very hard on itself, believe it or not. You'd think they would be after losing the point lead for that reason. But they only dropped down to 5th in points. So they still have their head in the game. They have that GMS equipment that they're getting, and they're looking to have a good performance at Dover as they allegedly are getting a sponsorship deal from Marcus Lemonis and the Camping World crew, getting those logos on the number 41 truck and getting some funding outside of the Hustlers Lawnmower Company that is represented currently on the number 41 truck. So expect quite a bit out of that team if they can get their qualifying program in order, because I'm sure they would have had actually a pretty good run at Nashville too had they not had that issue in qualifying. From Switchblade: are any lower division teams planning on running full-time Cup teams in the future? So right now, I've been hearing a lot of rumors about Sam Hunt Racing. If things go really good with that crew and that whole team, with Santino Ferrucci, John Hunter Nemechek running a couple starts in that 26 car, if things go good enough for that team, they may consider building a next-gen Cup car for next year. I've been hearing quite a few rumors about that. Not too many rumors of other teams trying to get into it from any other lower divisions. No real ARCA teams are being talked about right now because they're more concerned with the possibility of running an Xfinity-type car for next year in ARCA. The Truck Series teams, they're more or less focused on their division at the moment. And Xfinity Series teams, they're mostly internally focused on their operations as well. Because, most of the Xfinity teams right now are just Cup Series teams. That field Xfinity cars. It's a little different in the Camping World Truck Series, but when it comes to Xfinity teams that are unique, like Clements, Ryan Sieg, who actually ran the full Cup season last year, if any of those teams run Cup starts, I think that it would be part-time, not necessarily full-time, because Ryan Sieg learned how hard it was to try and field a full-time Cup team last season, which did not really go very well for that organization. They had to close shop and move back to the Xfinity Series, but this year with their partnership with Ford, you might be able to expect them to run maybe a star or two with the next-gen car once the prices drop. And theoretically, they could, I guess, purchase some stuff off of GoFast, as I've been hearing rumors that they may sell out at the end of the year after running just a couple of part-time starts this season. But I wouldn't expect too much out of any of the lower Xfinity Truck or ARCA teams to be running full-time Cup programs. Just a little bit too expensive at the moment. But part-time programs, yes, I could see that. Full-time, just right now, believe it or not, the only one being rumored is Sam Hunt, even knowing that he doesn't really have very much funding going in to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, but they are a very ambitious team, and they've been having good runs so far in the Xfinity Series, so I think they're just thinking that if we get into Cup now and maybe struggle for a little while, that it'll be worth the experience of having once we could possibly get some funding going and have some success. At least I believe that that's their theory. And the final question from Fisher G1, will any ARCA drivers make starts in the Truck Series this season? Yes. Even this weekend at Dover International Speedway, Gracie Trotter will be attempting her Truck Series debut in the number 50 truck for McAnally, Bill McAnally Racing. It's going to be their second truck. The first time they fielded a second truck in one race, and there's some current rumors about some other ARCA drivers, and I can announce one ARCA driver that will be running our 53 truck, Tim Richmond. He will be running that truck in a couple short track starts late in the year, right around the playoffs, once we can't run any Cup Series drivers in that truck. So yeah, I would say expect quite a few ARCA Menard Series drivers to be attempting Truck Series races this year, not to mention Justin Carroll, who originally announced that he was going to start running full-time in the Camping World Truck Series. They dropped that down to just a part-time deal. They're going to try and run the super speedways and the short tracks, and they're mostly focusing on their ARCA Menards East Series program, Justin Carroll is. So technically that's an ARCA driver as well that will be running. And Taylor Gray, Tanner's younger brother, will be running some Truck Series starts in the 17 this season as well. So that pretty much does it, folks, for episode number 2 of Post Tech. Hope you enjoyed it. The next time you'll be seeing us will be for the KDI Office Technology 200 from Dover International Speedway, and we will see you there.